due to the negligence of others. Every week, my daughter goes to a tutor very close to the Oxford Center, and it is hard to imagine how such a heartbreaking, unnecessary loss took place so nearby. Because Michigan lacks the laws to ensure that all hyperbaric oxygen therapy in Michigan is done responsibly by good actors, a young boy is no longer with us. So today we are taking the first official step to change that. Over the last year, Representative McDonald, myself, and our staff worked with industry leaders and health advocates to craft a package of bills to ensure safety in the operation of HVAC chambers by setting state standards of licensure. The bill I sponsored in the Senate and that is sponsored by Representative Rogers in the House would add freestanding hyperbaric oxygen therapy facilities to the list of health facilities and agencies licensed by Laura with inspections every 3 years to ensure compliance. This package would just define terms like qualified health professional, medical director, safety coordinator, and accreditation organization for independent hyperbaric facilities. Every freestanding facility in Michigan will be required to have these individuals, and they will all have to be accredited by a respected accreditation organization. They will also have to follow nationally recognized standards in mechanical engineering and fire prevention. In other words, freestanding facilities will be held to the same standards of safety and effectiveness that hospitals are. Nothing more, nothing less. Hospitals have an excellent track record of providing safe hyperbaric care, with 0 known deaths in their facilities this century in the United States. Our bill package ensures that freestanding facilities, those located outside hospitals, follow the same effective model. Hyperbaric medicine is like any other branch of medicine, helpful for people when administered by trained professionals who know what they're doing, but potentially harmful in the hands of those who aren't properly trained or don't follow established safety standards. Right now, anyone can operate a hyperbaric chamber in their wellness center or health spa without having qualified medical staff present. We've even heard of nail salons operating them. What is even more troubling is that we don't even know how many of these facilities exist in Michigan because we don't have a licensing structure. So I'm really proud to be part of this legislative effort and grateful for the partnership in the Senate with Senators Fertel, Moss, and Dumoose, as well as, of course, the close partnership over the past year with Rep. McDonald, which will help improve safety and quality for hyperbaric oxygen therapy patients while maintaining access to this important treatment option. And now I will hand it over to Representative Donovan McKinney.
Hi, everybody. I'm Representative Donovan McKinney, representing Michigan's 11th House District. I'm just so honored to be a part of this bipartisan package and bicameral package between the House and the Senate. As Senator Chang recently stated, the state doesn't know how many freestanding hyperbaric facilities there are in Michigan. Where they are or who is running them, we are flying blind. This is especially concerning while some freestanding facilities market their services as cures for conditions like autism with little to no evidence. This concerning trend is why the Autism Alliance of Michigan is a strong supporter of our bill package. And with this lack of knowledge comes a lack of oversight. The state can't possibly check in with independent facilities to make sure they're following best practices if we don't know basic information about them. This is where my bill comes in to play. The package will require freestanding hyperbaric facilities to be licensed by our state's Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs, also known as LARA. Like other medical facilities, they will be inspected by the state every 3 years. Like other medical facilities as well, they will have to prominently display their license and accreditation where patients can see them. And perhaps most importantly, patients and their families will be able to contact Laura with their concerns about a facility, and Laura will have the power to address them. Our legislation strikes the right balance between preserving access to a growing domain of medicine while ensuring that it is always practiced safely. Patients and parents of children, especially child patients, should receive information about what the FDA-approved uses of hyperbaric oxygen therapy are and are not, as well as information about the risks and benefits of hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Our bills make sure that patients get this critical information so they can make the most informed choices. In addition to being a legislator, I'm also a father of three young children. I want every child in Michigan to have access to the safest and best healthcare. And that means that we must put in place proper safeguards for healthcare options, including hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Our children, our veterans, and all Michiganders deserve safety and quality when it comes to their healthcare. As Senator Chang also said, hyperbaric oxygen is an effective treatment for multiple different conditions. There's even growing evidence that is effective in reducing PTSD symptoms among veterans. My colleagues and I want anyone who wishes to undergo hyperbaric oxygen therapy to receive it. We also want to ensure that they receive treatment in safe facilities. I cannot stress that enough, in safe facilities. And we want these facilities to give patients accurate information about the benefits and risks of hyperbaric oxygen, just like with any other treatment. This will be key to increasing consumer confidence. Hyperbaric oxygen is still a relatively little known treatment among the general public. So if someone Googles hyperbaric chamber today, the first thing they see might be about the deadly explosion in Troy 1 year ago, or the criminal trial that's about to start for the leaders of the Troy facility, or the deadly explosion in Arizona also last year. These incidents have given hyperbaric medicine a bad name. Who knows how many legitimate ethical treatment centers have lost business thanks to this handful of bad apples. We need to give peace of mind to Michiganders seeking this treatment, and by creating uniform standards, our legislation would do just that. This legislation will ensure that no matter where you live in Michigan and where you're seeking care, you'll be cared for by professionals who place patients over profits. With that, I will hand it over to Dick Clark with the National Board of Diving and Hyperbaric Medical Technology.
Thank you, sir. I represent the board, the long-standing custodian of hyperbaric safety and compliance, principally through its highly regarded certification programs. Some 5,000 healthcare professionals have achieved certification with the board over the last 4+ decades, and we are pleased to have been invited to participate in the development of these bills, both helping to mature language and intent. It should be noted here that in the right hands, and only in the right hands, the practice of hyperbaric medicine is considered a mastered medical technology and enjoys an impressive safety record. Hospital-based and hospital-affiliated programs that by definition are fully compliant with the many oversight authorities characterize those right hands. There are some independent, freestanding, privately held hyperbaric programs that strive to emulate these standards. However, many fail to do so, and it is these latter programs that represent the primary focus of these bills. The 4 hyperbaric fire deaths here in the United States during this century share certain traits. They occurred in privately owned facilities. These facilities focus their marketing and promotion on in violation of FDA regulations. These same facilities lack the requisite culture of hyperbaric safety, in the opinion of the National Board and as referenced within certain legal proceedings, along with evidence found at the scene in the most recent fire. And all appeared motivated more by profit, according to investigative and legal opinions. If I can further advance the in the right hands argument, the last hyperbaric chamber fire within a hospital setting here in the United States was back in 1989. That the chamber's occupants survived unharmed was a direct consequence of a fully compliant facility, staffed by well-trained and capable personnel who embodied the very essence of operational safety. The distinction between these two hyperbaric settings could not be any more apparent, and these bills, should they be enacted, will serve to close that gap. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dick. I believe now we have Jamie Xavier from the Autism Alliance of Michigan. Thank you, Jamie.
Yes, hello. Thank you for having me this morning. I'm happy to share that the Autism Alliance of Michigan is in support of this legislation, given our stance toward the continued safety of the community that we serve. The Autism Alliance of Michigan has a long history of addressing safety needs for the autistic community through our statewide resource identification program called My Navigator, as well as our GPS scholarship program that we offer to address instances of wandering and elopement. The Autism Alliance of Michigan recognizes that hyperbaric oxygen therapy is a service that's promoted towards the autistic community. And if a family or individual chooses to explore this service, we would like assurance that the highest safety regulations are in place for this therapy. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe that is all of our commentary for today. Do we have any questions? Kristen Seamus.
Hi, thanks so much for doing this morning and for taking my question. Is there bipartisan support for this? Do you have folks on the other side of the aisle who support this legislation?
So I'll start, and Rep. Patel definitely chime in. I'm really grateful for the many conversations I've had with Senate Republicans in my chamber, and we are really grateful that Senator Demus is actually a sponsor on one of the bills, and Senator Weber is a co-sponsor on all of the bills. And I've also talked to a number of other Republican colleagues who are very interested in the issue. So I'm just looking forward to continuing to have conversations and seeing what we can do moving forward.
And in the House, we do have co-sponsorship with 2 Republicans, Reps Jenkins Arno and Kuhn. Oh, excuse me, David Eggert.
Yeah, hi, Dave Egger with Cranes. I was just wondering if somebody could provide some context. Is it nationally, is Michigan, I guess, unique in not having regulations over this industry, or is this, pretty widespread?
I'll just start off and then give it to Dick. We would be the first state to have these regulations, and that's why we're doing this. And I think Dick can provide a bigger picture.
Yes, indeed. Michigan is the first. North Dakota had a bill presented, I think, in the last session that sought to develop a certification board within the state that would oversee all hyperbaric programs, hospital-based and elsewhere. They are the only 2 states, to my knowledge, that are involved at this level at this time.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your question. Do you have any other questions? Kristen.
To clarify, though, I've read and spoken with some hyperbaric experts who have said that there are 11 states with some regulation, right? But what you are saying is that the regulations in Michigan would be the most extensive nationally. Could you detail that a little bit more?
I'll let you take that, Dick.
Yeah, the regulations being proposed here through these bills are unique in the United States. The North Dakota proposal has been put back to the next year's session. But in all the other states, they just simply follow national standards like the NFPA. The local fire marshals will have some oversight, but there's nothing, to my knowledge, that's occurred within the legislature for those states that has mandated this level of oversight.
And I think I can add to that one of the things we already had in the state of Michigan is when these facilities, in particular the hard-sided facilities, are installed, they do that in concert with the local fire marshal and with an engineering organization. It's the oversight that's the problem. Once they get set up, they don't have to do anything else. There's no oversight, there's no regulation, there's no one checking in every few years to make sure they're still up to the standards that they were when they began. And that, I think, is the problem.
And that, again, is very distinct from hospital-based and hospital affiliated programs that have an enormous oversight structure that they stay within.
So does that answer your question, Kristen?
It does. Thank you. I would love it, though, if you would also detail a little bit about the thinking of excluding hospitals from the same process? I mean, we know that you were saying that hospitals typically have a lot of oversight just for the fact that they are hospitals. However, you could also imagine a situation in which a hospital might not follow the very same procedures that freestanding facilities have to follow. So detail a little bit about why you didn't include hospitals in this.
And I can start there. Yeah, what would have happened is because they do have a very rigorous oversight infrastructure, they are safe. They're very safe. And I'm sure Dick can get into more detail, but if we were to also include the hospital-based facilities, they would be double licensed. They would have to go through multiple rounds of oversight, which we didn't think was fair, and that's the problem. So the Joint Commission standards, um, well, anyway, I'm going to let Dick answer it. He's sure better at this.
Right. Yeah, the Joint Commission, DNV, CMS, they are all involved in oversight of hospitals per se, and which includes hyperbaric medicine. Now, there is an accreditation program recommended for hospital-based facilities to make sure, as that person just asked the question, that they are indeed following the statutes that are required. So that there is a structure in place that's been there for a quarter of a century that provides an independent, authoritative assessment of hospital-based practices. The National Board has a accreditation program, so do two other organizations. So that is in place for those hospitals, and they're encouraged to undergo that independent third-party analysis just to ensure that they are indeed adhering to the programs as they should.
From what I could
just
see, sorry, I
Oh, go
didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
I was just going to add that, through our, more than a year long work in learning and crafting and editing and many conversations, one of the things that Rep McDonald and I did, and I've lost track of the month, so I don't remember which month this was, but we actually went to go visit a hyperbaric oxygen therapy facility in Grand Rapids at Corwell. And it was really helpful, right? Because we were able to see how a well-run accredited agency facility is doing things the right way. And I think that really helped inform a lot of the work that we did after that to make sure that we're crafting legislation. And at a certain point, we realized, well, we're trying to tackle where the problems are. And so let's focus in on the areas that need the most improvement. So I think, this will be an ongoing conversation, but based on so many conversations and our own observations, this is where we need to focus.
And I want to add to that too, that of course in hospitals, you already have that infrastructure of medical professionals. I don't believe there were any medical professionals at the Oxford Center. And as Rep McKinney said, and Senator Chang, these can be at hair salons right now. They can be anywhere. So our bills require that any facility that's using these are medical facility and that they have medical staff running the equipment. One of the things I remember from that January 31st date last year was that when it said on my phone, the alert came that there was an explosion at a medical facility. That wasn't a medical facility. The woman who ran the Oxford Center called herself a doctor on her website because she had a PhD in special education. There were no medical people running that. And so that's also a glaring difference between what's happening in hospital-based therapy and in standalones. David Eggert.
Yeah, I realized, I think there was mention that it's hard to estimate how many of these facilities there are in Michigan because of the lack of a regulatory structure. Do you have some sort of estimate though, for some context, particularly the freestanding clinics?
I think we heard at one point there might be about 40 that people are aware of for some reason, but if you just Google it, you can find them in different places. Senator Chang, do you have something?
Yeah, I mean, but I think though in your question, I think it points to why this legislation is needed, right? The fact that the state doesn't know how many hyperbaric oxygen therapy facilities we have is a problem. And so we should know, right? Because if this is a type of healthcare that's being provided in our state, the state should know where they are and should know, if they're doing things the proper way. So I just remember when Thomas Cooper was killed in this explosion a year ago, and Rep McDonald and I started immediately asking questions, reaching out to state departments. There was just really no information to be had, and we need to change that. So while you can find things from a Google search, we shouldn't have to do a Google search to figure out where the hyperbaric oxygen therapy facilities are in Michigan. Our state government should have that information.
Do we have any other questions? And of course, you all know where to find us if you need further information later on. So if we don't have further questions, I guess we can wrap up. Thank you all. Thank you, Rep McKinney, Senator Chang, and Jamie Xavier, and Clark. We really appreciate your help on this as we've worked on this and for coming here today. And I guess with that, we will say thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.